Have you noticed that people are starting to distance themselves from you? Friends who once felt close suddenly seem uninterested. Conversations that used to flow now feel forced. If this is happening, don't panic. Rejoice, because this is not a coincidence. It's a sign that something powerful is happening in your life. When you step into a higher spiritual calling, the universe begins to rearrange everything around you. Some people will stay, but many will naturally drift away. Why? Because your energy is shifting, your purpose is evolving, and not everyone is meant to go where you're going. This isn't rejection, it's divine protection. And if you don't understand this process, you might cling to relationships that are meant to be released, delaying the blessings that are trying to reach you. Think about it. Jesus himself experienced this. The more he walked in his divine purpose, the more people misunderstood him, questioned him, and even turned against him. But did he chase after those who left? No. He stayed aligned with his mission, and in doing so he attracted the right people at the right time, and the same will happen to you. So if you feel like you're losing people, know that you're actually gaining clarity, strength, and alignment with your true purpose. Stay with me until the end of this video, because I'm going to reveal exactly why this happens, how to navigate this season, and why this is one of the greatest blessings you could ever receive. And before we begin, take a moment to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Many people watch these videos but forget to subscribe, and I don't want you to miss out on content that will deepen your spiritual journey. So hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and let's dive into this powerful revelation together. Spiritual growth is a journey of transformation, and one of the clearest signs of evolution is when people start drifting away. When someone embarks on a spiritual awakening, their vibrational frequency shifts. What once felt familiar may now seem out of sync, and this change can be unsettling for those around them. It's not about superiority or rejection. It's simply the natural process of spiritual alignment. Just as a radio station must be tuned to a specific frequency to receive a clear signal, one's energy also aligns with those who are on a similar path. When that alignment shifts, relationships that were once strong may begin to fade. This isn't a punishment. It's a form of spiritual refinement. Throughout history, those who walked the path of truth experienced seasons of solitude. Jesus himself often withdrew from the crowds, not because he rejected people, but because he was aligning with the divine purpose set before him. Luke 5:16. When someone steps into a higher spiritual calling, not everyone can or will follow. Some may feel uneasy, sensing an energy they don't understand. Others may resist, clinging to the comfort of familiarity rather than embracing change. And then, there are those who simply fade away, unable to walk the same path anymore. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, orchestrates these separations as a form of protection. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack filled with unnecessary weight. The more one climbs, the more that weight becomes unbearable. Spiritual awakening requires shedding old patterns, beliefs, and sometimes even relationships that no longer serve one's higher calling. Abraham had to leave behind his homeland to step into God's promise. Genesis 12:1. Likewise, those undergoing transformation must trust that the journey requires letting go of what no longer aligns with their spiritual evolution. It may feel like loss at first, but in reality, it's a sacred transition. The discomfort of separation is a sign that something greater is unfolding. As one grows, they begin to attract new people, those who resonate with their evolving energy. Friendships become more intentional, relationships deepen, and a sense of divine alignment begins to take shape. It's like pruning a tree. Branches must be cut for new growth to emerge. John 15:2. What is being removed is not a setback, but preparation for something greater. So if people are stepping away, don't see it as rejection. See it as confirmation. The universe, guided by divine order, is making room for something more aligned with your spirit. And in this process, there is no need to chase, convince, or cling to the past. Instead, embrace the journey, knowing that every change is leading you exactly where you are meant to be. As someone awakens spiritually, their energy undergoes a profound transformation. They no longer see the world through the same lens, and their very presence can feel different, sometimes even overwhelming, to those who haven't yet embarked on this journey. It's not that they've become unapproachable, it's simply that their energy now radiates at a higher frequency, and not everyone is ready to face that. This shift often manifests in subtle ways. Conversations that once flowed effortlessly now feel strained, shared interests begin to fade, and certain relationships start to feel out of place. This happens because a spiritually awakened person naturally shines a light on things others may not be ready to confront. Their presence, even without words, can act as a mirror, reflecting truths that others would rather keep buried. This discomfort isn't intentional. It's simply a byproduct of heightened awareness. When Jesus spoke in parables, many people struggled to understand him, not because his words were unclear, but because their hearts weren't yet open to deeper truths. Matthew 13:13. In the same way, an awakened soul may seem too much for those who aren't yet ready to step beyond the surface of their own existence. It's also important to understand that people are often drawn to what feels familiar, even if that familiarity is rooted in stagnation. Those who resist personal growth may perceive a spiritually awakened person as a disruption rather than an inspiration. They might withdraw, distance themselves, or even react negatively, not because they dislike the person, but because their presence challenges the status quo. This is why Jesus himself said, "A prophet is not without honor, except in his own town and in his own home." Matthew 13:57. When someone starts to walk a different path, those closest to them often struggle to accept the change. This is where discernment becomes essential. Not everyone will celebrate this newfound spiritual depth, and that's okay. It's not about convincing others to understand. It's about embracing one's own evolution without seeking validation. The truth is, when one's energy rises, it naturally filters out relationships that no longer serve their highest good. It's a refining process, much like how gold is purified by fire. Zechariah 13:9. It may feel isolating at times, but it's actually a divine alignment unfolding. Instead of dimming their light to make others comfortable, a spiritually awakened person must stand firm in their truth. Those meant to walk alongside them will adjust to the new energy, and those who cannot will simply fade away. This is not rejection, it's preparation, and as the journey continues, new connections will emerge, ones that align with this new frequency, creating deeper, more meaningful relationships that resonate with the soul's true purpose. When people begin to distance themselves, it may feel like rejection, but in reality it's divine protection at work. The universe operates with a wisdom beyond human understanding, and when someone steps into a new spiritual phase, not everyone can come along. Certain relationships, habits, and influences no longer align with the energy of this new path. What seems like loss is actually God's way of removing obstacles before they can hinder growth. It's not a punishment, it's preparation. Throughout Scripture, we see this principle in action. When God called Abraham to step into his divine destiny, he commanded him to leave behind his land and his people, Genesis 12:1, not because they were evil, but because they were not part of the journey God had set before him. The same applies to anyone experiencing spiritual awakening. The universe begins to rearrange relationships, ensuring that only those meant to uplift and support remain. Those who carry doubt, negativity, or resistance to growth will naturally fall away not by force but by divine design. Sometimes, the ones who leave are those who were once closest. This can be painful, but it's also revealing. If someone cannot celebrate another's growth, were they truly aligned? If a relationship collapses when deeper wisdom is embraced, was it ever built on true understanding? Jesus himself experienced this when many of his followers abandoned him because they could not accept his teachings, John 6:66. Yet he never begged anyone to stay. Instead, he continued walking his divine path, knowing that those meant to follow would do so by choice, not obligation. When a person resists this process and tries to hold on to relationships that are meant to end, they risk delaying their evolution. Imagine trying to climb a mountain while carrying unnecessary weight. The higher one ascends, the more burdensome that load becomes. Letting go is not failure, it's wisdom. Trusting the universe means understanding that every removal is a form of redirection, steering toward a life that is lighter, freer, and in complete harmony with divine purpose. Rather than seeing separation as a loss, it should be embraced as a sacred cleansing. What is meant to stay will stay, and what is meant to leave will leave. The more a person trusts in this divine orchestration, the more they will find peace in the process. And soon they will see that what once felt like rejection was actually grace in disguise, paving the way for something far greater. There is a sacred pattern in the spiritual journey. Before the right people come, there is a season of solitude. This is not an accident. It is a necessary phase where the universe clears away distractions, allowing space for deeper alignment. When someone undergoes spiritual awakening, they often find themselves feeling isolated, even disconnected from the world they once knew. But this loneliness is not a punishment. It is a divine invitation to grow, to reflect, and to prepare for the next phase of their journey. Consider how Jesus spent 40 days alone in the wilderness before beginning his ministry, Matthew 4:1-2. It was during this solitude that he gained clarity, overcame temptation, and prepared for his divine mission. The same applies to anyone on a path of transformation. Loneliness is not emptiness, it is refinement. It allows the soul to disconnect from external noise and reconnect with divine truth. And when this process is embraced rather than resisted, something incredible happens. New connections begin to emerge, ones that resonate with this new energy. Many people fear loneliness, mistaking it for abandonment. But what if loneliness is actually a form of protection? What if it is the universe's way of removing those who cannot walk the next part of the journey? Sometimes the absence of others is what allows one to hear the voice of God more clearly. Elijah experienced this when he fled to the wilderness, thinking he was alone. Yet, in that solitude, he encountered God in a whisper. 1 Kings 19:11-12. It was only after this period of separation that he was led to his true purpose. The same principle applies in relationships. When one elevates spiritually, the people who are truly aligned will naturally gravitate toward them. This doesn't happen overnight, but it happens at the right time. Those who remain in a state of fear or attachment often try to rush this process, forcing connections that are not yet meant to form. But divine timing is not something to manipulate, it is something to trust. The right friendships, the right relationships, and even the right mentors appear when the soul is ready to receive them. So, if loneliness is knocking, it should not be feared, it should be embraced. It is the space where transformation takes root, where the soul expands and where the foundation is laid for something greater. The more one surrenders to this solitude, the sooner the right people will arrive. And when they do, the connections will not be forced or temporary. They will be divinely orchestrated, strong, and deeply meaningful. Energy is magnetic. The people in one's life are not random. They are a reflection of their current state of being. As someone evolves spiritually, their internal world shifts and inevitably their external world follows. This is why old relationships sometimes dissolve without conflict. It's not personal, it's vibrational. Those who once felt like soul connections may no longer resonate, and new individuals aligned with this higher frequency start to appear. This is the universal law of attraction in action. Like attracts like. Jesus spoke of this principle when he said, "A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a bad tree bear good fruit." Matthew 7:18. In other words, one's inner condition determines what manifests in their external reality. If someone is growing in wisdom, peace, and spiritual strength, they will naturally attract people who carry the same essence. But if they cling to fear, negativity, or stagnation, they will continue to be surrounded by those who reinforce those states. The relationships in one's life are mirrors, revealing where they are in their journey. This is why, when a person elevates, they may find themselves in a period of disconnection. Those who once felt like home may now feel distant. It's not because either person has changed for the worse, it's simply that their vibrations no longer match. Imagine trying to listen to a high-frequency radio station on a low-frequency setting. The signal won't be clear. Relationships function the same way. When two people are no longer on the same energetic wavelength, communication, connection, and understanding begin to fade. However, this is not something to mourn. It is something to observe with gratitude. Every shift in relationships is a sign of spiritual progress. The universe does not take away without replacing. As someone continues to walk in alignment with their purpose, new relationships will emerge, ones that reflect this higher state of consciousness. This is why Jesus said, "Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added to you." Matthew 6:33. When one prioritizes spiritual growth, everything else, including the right people, falls into place. So rather than resisting these changes, one should embrace them. If certain people fade away, it is because their role in the journey has been fulfilled, and if new individuals appear, it is because they are meant to walk this path together. Spiritual evolution is not about holding on to what was, but about making space for what is becoming. And the more one aligns with their highest self, the more they will see their external world shift to reflect that light. What if loneliness isn't something to fear, but rather a gateway to true strength? Many people see isolation as a punishment, a void to be filled, but in reality, it is a sacred space where the soul is refined. When someone steps onto a spiritual path, there comes a moment when they must walk alone, not because they are unloved, but because they are being prepared. This solitude is not emptiness. It is the foundation upon which inner power is built. Jesus himself embraced solitude before stepping fully into his mission. He spent 40 days in the wilderness, not surrounded by crowds, but alone with God. Matthew 4:1-2. Why? Because true power is not found in the noise of the world. It is cultivated in the quiet moments where the soul learns to rely on something greater. This is where transformation happens. It is in these silent seasons that the deepest revelations emerge, and one realizes that they are not truly alone. The universe is always guiding, shaping and strengthening them. Many fear being alone because they equate it with weakness. But what if the opposite is true? When a person no longer depends on external validation, they become unshakable. When they stop seeking approval and instead find fulfillment within, they step into a level of freedom that few ever experience. Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." In stillness, one does not lose themselves. They find themselves. They discover that their worth is not tied to relationships, opinions, or circumstances. It is rooted in something far deeper. And then, something incredible happens. The more someone embraces solitude, the stronger they become. Their energy stabilizes. Their presence carries weight. They no longer react to the world. They shape it. When they walk into a room, they don't seek attention, but their energy is undeniable. This is the power that comes from within, the power of someone who has walked through the fire of solitude and emerged unshaken. Loneliness is not a curse. It is an initiation. It is the process by which the soul is stripped of illusions and rebuilt in truth. Those who fear it will run from it, but those who embrace it will find something far greater: freedom. True power does not come from being surrounded by people, but from knowing that, even in silence, one is whole. And once this power is found, nothing can take it away. There comes a point in the spiritual journey where external opinions lose their grip, where the noise of the world fades, and a deep, unshakable certainty takes its place. This is not arrogance, it is alignment. When someone truly understands who they are and walks in their purpose, they no longer need validation. They become untouchable, not because challenges disappear, but because they no longer seek approval from a world that does not define them. Jesus embodied this perfectly. No matter how much he was questioned, rejected, or misunderstood, he remained steadfast. He did not alter his message to fit the expectations of others, nor did he compromise his truth to gain acceptance. In John 15:18, he reminded his followers, "If the world hates you, keep in mind that it hated me first." True spiritual strength is not about avoiding opposition, it is about standing firm despite it. The more one aligns with divine purpose, the less they are affected by temporary opinions. At this stage, distractions lose their power. The things that once triggered doubt or insecurity no longer carry weight. There is no need to prove anything, no desire to convince anyone. When someone reaches this level of awareness, they understand that their path is theirs alone. Those who are meant to walk with them will, and those who are not will naturally fall away. This is not loss, it is refinement. Like gold purified in fire, 1 Peter 1:7, the soul is strengthened through the process of letting go. And then, the universe begins to align. Opportunities appear effortlessly. The right people enter one's life without force. Decisions become clearer, not because external circumstances change, but because inner clarity removes all doubt. When someone stops seeking, they start receiving. This is the paradox of spiritual power. The less one grasps, the more they attract. It is no longer about chasing, proving, or striving. It is about being. This is what it means to be untouchable, not immune to hardship but unaffected by it, not exempt from challenges but no longer controlled by them. When one walks with unwavering faith, they realize that nothing outside of them holds power over them. And in that realization, true freedom is found. One of the greatest struggles on the spiritual journey is learning to trust the process. When people leave, when life shifts in unexpected ways, the mind instinctively resists. It asks, "Why is this happening?" Or "What did I do wrong?" But in reality, nothing is wrong. Everything is unfolding exactly as it should. Spiritual evolution is not about controlling every outcome. It is about surrendering to the flow of the universe and allowing divine alignment to take its course. Jesus demonstrated this in the Garden of Gethsemane. Knowing what was ahead, he prayed, "Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me, yet not my will, but yours be done." Luke 22:42. Even in his greatest moment of uncertainty, he surrendered, and because he accepted the process, he fulfilled his highest purpose. The same applies to anyone walking a spiritual path. Resistance creates suffering, but trust brings peace. When one truly embraces the journey, fear dissolves, and life begins to unfold with ease. Many people try to hold on to relationships, situations, or identities that no longer serve them, but clinging to what is meant to leave only delays what is meant to come. Imagine trying to sail across an ocean while holding onto the shore. True transformation requires letting go. It requires believing that whatever is removed is making space for something greater. Isaiah 43:19 reminds us, "See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it?" The universe is always working in one's favor, even when it doesn't feel like it. The moment someone stops resisting and starts trusting, everything shifts. New doors open. Peace replaces anxiety. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" they begin to ask, "What is this preparing me for?" This change in perspective is the key to moving forward. Those who trust the process are not exempt from pain, but they are free from unnecessary suffering. They understand that every loss is a lesson, every ending is a new beginning, and every challenge is an initiation into something greater. So rather than fearing change, one should embrace it. The universe never takes without giving. The more one surrenders, the more life aligns effortlessly. And when looking back, they will realize that every shift, every goodbye, every moment of uncertainty was guiding them exactly where they were meant to be. If there's one thing you should take away from this message, it's this: what is leaving your life is not a loss, it's alignment. Every person who steps away, every situation that shifts, is part of a divine plan that is leading you towards something greater. The universe is not punishing you, it is preparing you. And the sooner you accept this, the sooner you will step into the freedom, power, and purpose that is waiting for you. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt people drifting away as you grew spiritually? How did you handle it? Share your experience in the comments. I read every single one of them. Your story might inspire someone else who is walking through the same process. And before you go, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next powerful insight. If this video resonated with you, hit the like button and share it with someone who needs this message. Also, stay with me, because on the screen right now there's another video that will take you even deeper into your spiritual journey. Click on it now and keep expanding your wisdom. I'll see you in the next video. This is Celestial Truths, signing off.